Now, normally this is in this problem, this is where we're done. This is where we stop. That's my final answer. But I want to use this opportunity to show you all kind of like a shortcut of how to get from cubic feet to second to gallon per minute, or gallon per minute back to cubic feet per second. So what I'm going to do is kind of erase my previous problem here. I want you to look at this conversion that we did here. Now, if you think about it, whenever you're going from cubic feet per second to gallon per minute, you're always going to multiply by 7.48, multiply by 60. Right? I'm always going to do that. It's going to be the same. So what I want to look at here, I want to kind of be able to isolate these two conversions here, the 7.48 and the 60. So if I just multiply 7.48 times 60, I get this number 448.8. 448.8, right? And because my conversion factors here are always going to be the same, I can just use this 448 in place of this two-step if you want to use it as a shortcut. So going back to here, I can do the 1.09. What I'm going to end up doing is multiplying by 448.8. Right? So when I plug that into my calculator, 1.09 times 448.8, I end up with 489.192. So the same answer. 489, I'm going to round to two decimals, I'll call it 0.19 gallon per minute, right? We end up with the same answer. Now you can also use this conversion factor going the other way, right? So let's take a look at that as an example here. We're going to work backwards. So let's say I'm given gallon per minute, I'm trying to convert to cubic feet per second. So if I have 489.19 gallons per minute, right? Gallon per minute. Now I'm going to go back to cubic feet per second. So let's work through this conversion factor just like we did in our bottom example down here. So if I like to take care of the volume first, so I'm going to get rid of gallons. Gallons is up top here, so gallons has to go down below here. I'm trying to bring in cubic feet. I look at my handy dandy conversion sheet. I know that there are 7.48 gallons for every 1 cubic foot. I also know that I would need to get rid of the minutes, right? I'm trying to get to cubic feet per second because minutes is down below here. I need to put minutes up top here. I'm trying to bring in seconds. I know that there are 60 seconds for every 1 minute, right? Therefore, here my gallons cancels out. I see that my minutes cancel out. My units across the top end up being cubic feet. My units across the bottom end up being seconds. Now, in this case, if you look at the difference between here to here, where my big numbers were on top in my conversion factor, now my big numbers are here on bottom, right? So that means I'm now dividing as opposed to down here where I was multiplying. So now I'm going to do 489.19 divided by 7.48, enter, divided by 60, enter. And I get 1.0899999, which I'm going to round to 1.09. And that's going to be cubic feet per second. Right? But now if we isolate our conversion factor here, remember that this equals 7.48 times 60 is the 448.8. But now instead of multiplying like I did here, I can just divide. So now I got to think of this as 489.19. I want to think of this as dividing by this 448.8, right? I'm going to divide by it here. I multiplied it this way. I'm dividing by it this way. So now I go to my 489.19 divided by this 448.8. And I end up with 1.08999955544, so 1.09 cubic feet per second. And so that's a little shortcut you can do keeping in mind that when you use this shortcut, you have to remember which way you're dividing and which way you're multiplying. If you set it up like this and do step by step, you're always going to get this right if you're following your units and making sure your units cancel out properly. Okay.